Hi, you are now on our Hangout for Summer Learning for Elementary School Students. I'm Amanda from the Educator Spin on It, and I have a very special guest, Anna Geiger from The Measured Mom. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Anna, would you be able to tell us more about your blog?
Yes, The Measured Mom, I started about a year and a half ago as kind of a way to get me accountable for the activities I was doing with my kids. I found that with my oldest I did a lot more, and I was kind of falling off the bandwagon with my younger children, so I wanted to stay on top of it. And then it kind of developed into a resource for parents and classroom teachers and people like me who send their children to school but also want to do a lot more with them at home. And so it talks about the activities that I do with my five kids, although our youngest is just a newborn. But I have a daughter who's 7 and is going into 2nd grade, and a little boy who's going into kindergarten, and a 4-year-old boy and a 2-year-old boy, and then we have a baby girl.
And that's awesome because I think I feel your pain with the younger kids and wanting to hold myself as accountable for making sure that their activities are enriched and we're doing the language and hands-on learning, just like I did with my oldest, who's also 7 and going into 3rd grade, and then my youngest is going into pre-kindergarten. He's 4, and my little guy's 18 months. So I don't have 5, but with 3, you definitely have to be organized.
Definitely. Yeah.
Now, what are the ways that you, or activities you provide, and your ways you organize them?
One thing I found is that I have to really set up a system for doing things with my kids, or I just get distracted, either by getting the house clean or organizing, or my husband has a large garden, so in a month or so it's going to be crazy with all the vegetables and canning and everything, or just my own time, like I like to work on my blog, obviously, or read a book or something. So I feel like I have to set up a system that's going to keep the kids excited about doing things with me. So what I did this year was I got a box for each of the kids, and these are I got them at the Michaels, and they're 12 by 12, so you can fit all kinds of stuff in them, pretty much anything you want. And then I fill them up with stuff that will get us through a couple of days, whatever I decide that they need to work on, or that I think they would like to do. And then every time they do an activity, they get to color in a circle on a piece of paper, and then when they get a row done, then they get to choose a prize from our prize chart, and our prize chart is very simple things that the kids like. One of them is just pick out a fruit at the grocery store, because usually they want the peaches, and I say, no, they're not on sale. Or no, that's not
my house.
Other things, like some things that cost money would be like go to the half-price bookstore and pick out a book, which they never get to do normally. Or another thing is pick your favorite meal and help me cook it. So a lot of it's just promoting time with them in ways that they enjoy versus just a box of prizes, which can get old or can be hard to fill up to pick things they want to do.
Now, I'm actually, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I think I need to go get some of those boxes for myself. What do you put in them? Like, I know that's a trick question because it changes all the time, but like, I have multiple age kids, and I know you do too. So are they all the same thing, or are they all different, or like how do you get inspiration? Like what's in the box right now?
Right. Well, for each of them, it's different depending on what they need to do. For my 5-year-old who's going into kindergarten, he's he's doing well at reading. I would say he's reading Frog and Toad, past Frog and Toad. So he's doing really well, and he likes to read. But I know that if I would have him read, he would read more. So I have a bunch of books that I printed from readingatoz.com, which I love, and I wish they had an affiliate program because it's amazing. But they have, to me, the $100 a year is very worth it because I can get books at the levels that my kids are reading when they're just starting to read that I really can't find at the library. So I printed a whole bunch of books for him and put them in a bag, like his Ziploc. Oh, there we go. And so then that's one of his tasks is reading all the books that are in it. And sometimes I sit and listen to him, or if I'm working with another kid, then he reads by himself. Another thing I've done is for my daughter, who's going into 2nd grade and is also a pretty accomplished reader, she can read pretty much anything she wants to. I put a bunch of books in there that her 2-year-old brother will like, and then one of her tasks is reading to him for 15 minutes.
Ah, good idea.
And then my 4-year-old reads very, very basic sight word books, so I give him like 5 or 6, and then he reads those to me. Other things are games. I printed off a game, Battle of the States, from one of our co-linked up people.
Oh, I saw you did that, yeah.
And my daughter loves it, wants to play it all the time, so that's the first thing she has to do is play her state card game with me. And I've also made some word family games that my 5-year-old will do. I hear somebody's breaking bones down the stairs, so sorry about that.
Now, do you find like you go like on Pinterest and find those fun activities and then just choose the ones that they could do independently and then just kind of fill the boxes with those?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, most of the stuff I make myself because then I put it on my blog and share with other people. But sometimes, like my blog is driven by what I want my children to do next, and then I make it and share it. But if I'm looking for other things, I follow lots and lots of blogs, including yours, and so I'm always pinning stuff to my Pinterest board. So I'll go there and find stuff. For my 4-year-old, I printed a set of monsters that have numbers on them, 1 to 20, and he has to put them in order. And a week ago, he could not remember the number 12 for anything. Now he knows it. And it just took him putting some monsters in order. So sometimes I think it's just picking that one little thing they need to do, finding a simple game, or making it, and giving it, just making yourself do it helps.
Yeah, I find I have lots of great ideas, and then some days I just wake up and I'm like, I have no idea what to do with my kids, and so I'll quick hop on and type in a few, like you said, if we're working on numbers or something, I'll be like, okay, who's got some number ideas, and I'll run with that. But I like the ideas of having like the books already ready to go in your stash. I'm finding already this summer that we're kind of a little bit more laid back, which I don't think is a bad thing. We have this routine where every morning we have breakfast, and then I leave these papers out. So I always choose a different color. For some reason, I find like my kids do better with colored paper instead of just giving them white. And all 3 of them usually add to the same picture.
Can I continue? Yeah. I've got a child issue.
So, anyways, while she's working with her little helper, what my kids do is all 3 of them will sit at the kitchen table and work on a group, I guess, drawing. And so I, as a parent, try to kind of hop in as I'm, helping make breakfast and feeding the baby. And, actually my kids asked for the school of fish. I don't know if you can see it. So I sat in between and drew a school of fish. And then my 4-year-old wanted a boat, so we sat and kind of helped him do the boat, and he thought the steering wheel was here. And then, of course, the 7-year-old wanted the mermaid, so she added it in. And then what usually happens is they pass it to the baby at the end of their art session in the morning, and he does his 1-year-old thing. But I find that this way we kind of start our morning off with a little bit of creativity, and sometimes we'll take it and I'll have my grade schooler do some writing extensions or make it into a story as well. So we're finding that's a good activity.
Very cool.
Although I'm totally stealing your box idea. It just seems like in the summer it would work really well.
You only have to be a day or 2 ahead. That's what I like. You don't have to plan the whole summer out. You can take it day by day as to what they need to do or what you want them to do.
Or even a week, and if they finish it early, it's okay. One of the biggest hits with my grade schooler has definitely been this box.
Are those beads? I can't tell. Okay.
I think that she has spent probably 4 or 5 hours at least a week making beads. And what's really nice about it is that there's so much great math activity connections. Like she's making patterns, And at one point, she was measuring everybody's wrists with, she's so goofy. She's measuring everybody's wrists and then comparing out who's longer and how many inches everybody was. And then she had like 12 different bracelets and some different necklaces. And she even had me research on Google what's the standard necklace length because she wanted to sell them to the neighbors. And then, so I was like, okay, write down the cost of beads and then how many beads you use per necklace and then how much time you spend and make up a reasonable cost. And so she had this whole like graph of how much she's going to sell over the summer. And then it was like, and who's going to buy all these? She's like, well, my neighbors. So here's me. I'm calling my neighbor. Please buy her necklace. I will give you money. And the neighbor's like, no, just send her over. And she bought like 5 necklaces. So,
wow, she really has determination.
Oh, yeah. So, like, this box of beads has kind of spun into this little math and addition and problem solving and profit margin. And it's actually kind of nice because it's what I guess I want as a parent, where they kind of take all the stuff that they learned in school, and then once they're at home, instead of just sitting there, doing nothing, they're kind of using these problem solving and coming up with their own plans. So it's kind of nice that way.
Very cool.
So anyways, I'm going to get on to our next question. So jump in if you did think of any other activities that you wanted to share. But I know my kids like the beading. Do you have any open-ended activities that your kids have been drawn towards this summer?
I would say, mainly it's just being outside and playing together. With the 4 older kids, 7, 5, 4, 2, they're very close in age, and they just play together all the time. Their mainly open-ended thing is finding. Today they found some dried up potatoes in the yard that were in our basement from last year that had grown foot-long sprouts, whatever you call them, and they're making soup with it. Or my husband has a huge garden, so he lets them go in there and pick it. Go pick the strawberries and feed each other outside at a little picnic table. So mainly it's just creative play that they like to do art stuff, but they're more excited about just being outside and making up ideas.
See, it's so hot here. We can't do a lot outside in the summer.
And that is a hard thing. I think on the hot days, then they come in and tell me they're bored. And so, and it's not too hot here yet. We've only had one hot day, but we had a long winter. So I think something I'll do is just kind of get crafts out and some kind of open-ended painting. They like to paint. Mostly they like to read, look at books. And so if we stock with library books, that's a good thing.
We usually do a lot of like sidewalk chalk, like in the morning. I'm talking like 7 o'clock in the morning. My kids are out sidewalk chalking and doing. We got into a habit last summer where they would write messages to our neighbors in the chalk, like "Have a great day," and they would draw them a picture. And it's really quite cute. So in the morning they kind of go out. They've done little jokes on the sidewalk, and my neighbors get a kick out of my kids. But then by about 8 o'clock it gets so hot, so we just start bringing buckets of water. I think that's about all we can do is play with water.
Yeah, we're kind of reverse. We're in Wisconsin, so the winter here gets to be, this year was nuts. We had like weeks at a time when they didn't go outside, except to take your sister to school. So we're trying to
come up with the indoor play ideas, and you're like, get outside. Now, you said your kids do a lot of reading. Do they bring books outside, or like when do they end up reading?
Yeah, they can bring books outside with my permission and a careful, make sure we don't leave them outside kind of thing overnight. So usually they're reading inside. My daughter Usually, when the morning starts, the three older kids all share a room, and they are allowed to leave the room at 6:45. Because before that is my work time downstairs and my husband. So they know, and when it's time, they all come downstairs. And usually, the first thing they do is get on the couch, and my daughter reads to the boys
Mm-hmm.
while I'm feeding the baby, getting the toddler, getting breakfast ready. In the school year, they do that also, but it's a very short time. And in the summer, we're more laid back, so they might read for an hour or so before we have breakfast. I think, like, my kids have always been big into books, and it has not been a problem for me to get them interested, but some things that I did intentionally at the beginning, I think have helped that. Am I moving into the different question now?
No, I'm excited. I'm picking up tips.
Okay.
It's always so much fun, like, to hear how other people keep their kids excited and motivated, because, like, there's always stuff we can learn and ways that we can incorporate different ideas and make our kids' lives better. So no, I'm excited.
The first thing we did, which not everybody probably wants to hear, is very limited screen time. Our kids actually don't watch any television shows. So they've never actually seen commercials. They do watch. We have a set of DVDs that are actually from Scholastic. I think they're Scholastic classic storybooks. Movies.
Yeah, those are the ones that my kids have watched too a couple times.
So there's a whole bunch of them. There's we probably have 30 DVDs in the 2 sets, and so they get to choose one of those when they watch the show. And now, if it's nice outside, they might not watch the show for a whole week. Today I had company coming for supper, so they all watched the show during quiet time, and so it depends. But that is the show. That is what they're allowed to watch. In terms of computer time, we just made a choice that their computer time is with Daddy on his iPad, with all 4 of them sitting around him, like 2 or 3 times a week, depending on the season. And they choose which game they want to play. It's usually Starfall, which is free online, and it's a learning stuff, but it's very fun and engaging. My husband also brought this very cool app, which is about the human body, and it takes you like a visual trip down the human body. I think that's really fun. So
my kids have done Little Pim, because we're trying to speak Russian with the kids, and so it's a little app that teaches the preschooler and my other. It's great for a grade schooler if they're just learning the language, and she's hopefully coming out with the level 2, so I'm very excited.
So your husband speaks fluent Russian, is that right?
Yes.
And so your kids, does he speak it to the children, or how are you?
We aim for a half hour to 45 minutes of Russian language every day. So the kids aren't as fluent as I would love them to be, but they are exposed to the culture and the language on a daily basis. So I got to count that as a win.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, we back to the book thing, just the limited screen time, because if it's not an option for them, it's not something they're used to, then they don't ask for it very often. Like, our TV's in the basement on purpose. So we're not always seeing it all the time, and they just know that if they get a show, it's only once a day. And I make popcorn for them, having air poppers with a special time. They all cozy up on the couch together with a blanket. I think it would be ideal if they didn't have any screen time at all, but I can't be that amazing of a mother. I just can't do that. I need a break sometimes. And then I think also our library's like a mile away, so I always have books on hold, usually because I'm making another book list for my blog, so I'm constantly reviewing books that I want to see if it's one that I would recommend. So every week, easily, we're picking up like 10 or 20 books from the library, and they just love that. Because even though I have hundreds and hundreds of books from teaching in the house, they get sick of them. But I find that buying a lot of books is a waste because they're not exactly gentle on books, especially in my stuff.
So I end up doing that too. I didn't know if all the libraries do that, but I know ours, we can go online and we can reserve it, and then they just send us like an email whenever our reserved books come in, and then I bring my library card and they just hand me my stack of books. Is that how yours does it?
Yes, in fact, they even change it so that they're on a shelf, and I just have to go pick them up and check them out myself.
Ooh.
Three look for librarians when I have 40 books to check out. I can do it myself. So it works really well.
Well, that's nice to know, though, that a lot of libraries do that.
Yeah, that's if I had to go through the shelves and do it myself with all my kids, it wouldn't happen. So thankfully, this is a different option.
Yes. As I know we're on the book theme, but I find that when it's the baby's nap time is kind of when my older kids tend to read more because it has to be a little bit quieter for at least a little bit of time. Is that kind of how it works in your house too?
Yeah, actually our baby's only about 5 months old, so she has 2 naps still. And what we do in the morning, when she goes down for her morning nap around 9 o'clock, that's the box time, at least in the summer. That's what we call it the boxes because I can give them full attention, although she's a very easy baby, thankfully. But that's the way I can be completely undistracted. And our 2-year-old mostly just plays by himself during that time, but he will come in sometimes and participate a little bit. The afternoon nap time is for the 2-year-old and the baby. And we've always at our house, once our kids hit about 3 and they're able to do something by themselves, quiet time. And so they're in their bedroom until they're a little older and they share the quiet time with someone else. So it's not always quiet because there's fighting and whatever else. Or someone thinks that.
That's so good to hear because my oldest two are sharing a room, and so I will say, okay, it's quiet reading time, and then I'll go in and everybody's on the bunk bed and they're fighting over who gets to sleep on what pillow and who gets to read what book, and it's not very quiet.
Yeah, I think what my rule is in the school year when my daughter was in first grade in the afternoon, the 2 boys would have quiet time together. They were 5 and 4 at the time, and I would say, if you want to go outside, you can be together for quiet time. Because then they're out of the house, and it's much easier for them to handle their issues if they can get away from each other. But otherwise, if they're in the house, they could not be in the same room because they would be fighting, usually. Next year, when my oldest goes to kindergarten, I'm going to have him come back in the middle of the day. He's just going to do half day. And since they will have been gone from each other all morning, I do plan to have them have quiet time together to promote that relationship. And hopefully they'll get along most of the time because they'll have been not spending all morning together.
So I find that like my summer routine, kind of like you said, it kind of falls into a little bit different routine. So it almost seems like my kids get up, we have a little bit of or structured art, creative time, a little bit of reading and learning. We usually go on some sort of like a little outside or adventure before it gets too hot, and then we kind of wind down, have our quiet time. But it seems like I'm still pretty, I wouldn't say strict, but I'm pretty scheduled, and like the kids are still regimented. Like, do you find your summer activities change at all?
In terms of the schedule that we keep?
Yeah.
I would say that in the past, like last summer, I felt like it was way too unstructured. Like I didn't have a system, and so this year I decided to box things to really keep myself accountable. Because all of a sudden summer was over. I hadn't really done anything with them, and I didn't like that. So this is accountability for me. Just like the reason I started the blog. Now I'm doing this to just keep myself on track. I think our schedule kind of revolves around meals and nap time. So we do have a schedule, but it's very loose. Like the other day, I had company coming over, and so they actually got to fill in circles on their chart by helping me with special things like cleaning out a cupboard and washing it out, or washing fingerprints off the wall. I figured that was a learning thing too. They had fun doing it, and it gave us something, help me out.
Yeah, I kind of like you said, like we almost need accountability. I had just created, I wanted to keep reading fun all summer long for my kids, and like last year we did a ton of reading during the summer, but I really wanted to, my second graders going into third grade, and I know they start all these high stakes standardized testing, and I was like, well, I don't really want to like push a test, but what do I need to do? And so I was like, I need to really try to like diversify her reading because she's very like one genre driven. And I was like, how do I encourage her to read different stuff, and how do I encourage her to read in different places? And so I created like you said, for your blog, you kind of use it as a way to keep accountable. So it was like, I need to do this for myself. And so I created like a reading kit. And one of like the game boards is reading genres, and so it's got 12 different reading genres that she's helping me put her books on reserve, and then we're going and picking them up, and then she's reading them and crossing off. So she's really excited about that, but I wanted to, like you said, not get to the end of summer and be like, I wanted to do all this stuff with her. So we have different challenges. So the first one is reading genres, and then we're going to focus on reading around the world. And so she's actually really excited about that. And I'm like, no, we got to finish one challenge first before we can start the next.
Yes. You know, there's so many ideas. So many. I've always, people say, how many, are you going to run out of ideas for your blog? I'm like, no, I have thousands of ideas. I just don't have time to do them and write about them.
Well, and part of it is that happy balance of how do you just let the kids
exactly
go outside, play inside, whether it's brick play or we're into superheroes flying around the house in their little costumes, or my grade schooler wants to cook every day. She wants to bake. 4 o'clock today, she says, I'm ready to make dinner. And I'm like, okay, what are you making? She goes, I'm making turkey chili and cornbread. And I was like, okay, but I need to make sure you're monitored on the stove. She's like, that's fine. So she browned the turkey. I had to open the cans. She made the turkey chili. She mixed up the cornbread. I turned the oven on, put it in the oven. I was like, this is great. I think I like having a grade schooler.
That's awesome. What you said about balance is important, too. I think some people see blogs and they think that bloggers are doing all this learning stuff with their kids all the time, and they feel like, well, I could never do that. That's just way too much, or that just makes me feel like a bad mom because I'm not doing learning stuff with my kids all the time. And I tell people definitely that the focused learning at the table that I do with my kids is a tiny percentage of the week. Tiny. Like some weeks we don't do any at all. I mean, most of what we do is me reading to them reading. Some days I don't even read to them because I'm busy cleaning the house or whatever. They read. Not that I'm recommending that, but that happens sometimes.
Or you say, oh, hey, whoever can read, please help me read so I can get this done. And I think it's finding a balance between having fun, having learning, and actually living life because somebody has to do the dishes.
Exactly, right. And I don't want them all waiting for me and now I just can't do that.
Yeah. Oh, well, and I have so many new ideas. I am actually going to start the box thing. And I think that it's a good way, especially if you have multi-age children, that you can kind of plan ahead so you're not having to think on the spot. I like that.
It also works to plan for a day where you have something that one kid needs you for and other kids don't need you for, so that you can balance off which kid has one-on-one time and which kids can work independently.
My kids always need me.
I know. Same problem. But ideally, they wouldn't need you necessarily.
And the thing is that there are some moments, especially like during the summer, where I'm like, oh my goodness, this was a wonderful day. Like, I connected with my kids. Wow, we explored nature. We had a great habitat discussion. We came home. We filled out our science journal. The kids snuggled in on the couch. They're reading their nonfiction books. They're having a discussion about it. I'm like, wow, this is great. And then other moments you're like, did any learning occur today?
I know.
So I think it's right. Like, what people see on a blog isn't always what happens in reality, and it's important to find time for everything.
Exactly. And to know that some days are going to be, like you said, those really amazing learning days where everything works, everybody's getting along, and the next day everybody wakes up cranky, or I wake up cranky. You can just tell it's just not going to be that kind of day. It's going to be more of a, we're going to watch a show, we're going to whatever, just got to get out of the house kind of day, and we're not going to do any structured learning home, and that is A-okay fine.
Yeah.
Pick your days.
Well, I definitely thank you so much for coming today to talk about after school, grade school activities in the summer. I will make sure to include the links to all the topics that we discussed on today, and I really thank you for coming out.
Thank you very much. This was very exciting, my first Google Hangout. Thank you, Amanda.